Well, let's see how I go tonight, eh? The inner secrets of Bill Moss. My daughter Natalie persuaded me to talk tonight about my fight with FSHD and tell how it affected my body, my mind and my life. So tonight I'm going to have a go at telling my story. Now, to set the scene for this story, I want to thank two wonderful people that have helped me survive, and I mean survive, and have made it possible for me to continue to fight. My beautiful daughter Natalie, who you met earlier, and my wonderful wife Lada. They're both the reason that I'm able to be here tonight, and I mean both physically, mentally. To both of them I say thank you. So FSHD I've nicknamed the slow death. I describe it as a rapid ageing disease. Slowly your muscle cells die and your body collapses around them. So how am I affected today? Well, I need 24 hours a day of care to survive. I can't stand up, I can't turn over in bed, I have problems breathing, I can't go to the toilet without help, I can't comb my hair, I struggle to brush my teeth, I'm losing the ability to hold a fork or a spoon. I lost the ability to use a knife several years ago. I can't eat without using a bib, and I struggle to use a keyboard. I have problems dictating because my words are slurred. I can't function without a machine to lift me into bed and out to bed and to lift me in and out of this chair. Yes, I have pain, but over time you become immune to pain. Continually this disease plays with your mind. Sometimes you question, what's the point of fighting it? As it progresses, you adapt. You get depressed, but you keep changing and you keep going. I used to enjoy drinking a cappuccino. I'd go to the local cafe and order a cappuccino, but one day when you do that, you find out you don't have the strength to lift the cup. So you start to order short blacks, not because you prefer them, but because they come in a smaller cup. You live with this disease day by day. One day your wedding ring falls off because your finger is smaller. You have the ring resized. A year later it falls off again. You have it resized again. Ultimately you give up and just don't wear a ring. For all of us, life is about memories. Sadly, some of my memories include things like the first time I fell in Martin Place, or the first time I could not get out of a toilet on a plane, but also the first time I hugged my children when they were born, and the fear I had of not being strong enough to hold them. Despite all my physical limitations, I still work well in excess of 40 hours a week. You see, I'm driven to find a cure for this disease. Let me explain why. Growing up, at the age of 6, I was one of the fastest runners at school in my class. By 8, I was the slowest. I loved sport, but was never good at it. I quickly became a fan rather than a player. It was no fun being the worst player in the team. I remember at school when teams were picked, I was always the last one picked. From about the age of 10, the school kids started to laugh at me because I always threw my legs when I walked. I just ignored them. You see, no one had told me that I was different. I was living in a bubble. I wasn't aware of the changes that were happening in my body. By 17, I'd put on a lot more weight from not being active. More people noticed I walked with a limp. I didn't know I had curvature of the spine and one leg had developed shorter than the other as a result. I could no longer run, but I didn't see this as a disability. Some people also started to comment on my facial features. My mother had started to tell me I had rounded shoulders and I should sit up straight. She also told me that when I was born, I could never close my eyes. I still can't. Next was university. I was lucky to get to university. I got a scholarship. But with a scholarship came a medical examination, which to my surprise, I failed. You see, my heart was in irregular shape and because my chest curved inwards. A few doctors later it was determined that this was not life-threatening and I could go to university. So I did. I continued to work weekends and holidays as I'd done from the age of 15, either as a gardener, a factory hand or a storeman. No one talked about my body shape. I finished my economics degree at Sydney Uni at 21 and did what most people did at the time. I applied to join the public service. I did the interview and was rejected by both state and federal public services. I therefore took the only job I could get, and that was ANZ Bank, who offered me a cadetship based on my academic results and via a telephone interview. My career in banking had started. Life moved on. I got married to my first wife, Denise. I was 25, and I continued to work and do more studies. But a few things were changing. I could still drive, but I struggled to lift my foot from the accelerator to the brake. Some cars were easier than others to drive for me because it all depended on the height of the brake pedal. So I simply went out and bought cars that had low brake pedals. I could still get in and out of the car, but later in life, this would change. I was diagnosed with FSHD at the age of 28. We owned a house in the suburbs and my wife and I were planning a family. I was also very successful in business. I kept getting promoted at work. In fact, at 28, I was estate manager for a major real estate finance company. Life was good. Well, one night it was raining and cold. My wife Denise and I entertained a few friends for dinner at home. She was a smoker and I hated smoking. We had a rule, no smoking inside the house. After dinner she wanted to smoke and I said, outside. To which, to my surprise, she reluctantly went outside in the rain. A few days later she developed pneumonia and was in hospital, and she blamed me for this. While in hospital, the doctors discovered that Denise was born with a hole in her heart. She never knew this. She stayed in hospital for quite a long time and they repaired the heart. Her heart surgeon told us she was very lucky that she found out she had a hole in the heart before she became pregnant, because with the hole in the heart she could have died in childbirth. That's when the heart surgeon looked at me and said, "Can I examine you?" He told me he thought I had facioscapulohumeral dystrophy. I'd never heard of this disease. I remember going home and looking up an encyclopedia and for the first time being concerned, very concerned. I saw my neurologist and he told me, there is no cure, there is no treatment. Go home and relax. Don't work too hard and enjoy life while you can, because you will be in a wheelchair before the age of 50. He also told me any children of mine that I had would have a 50% chance of having FSHD, and I should think very carefully about having children. Now, at this point in time, I had never met a child with FSHD. In fact, I'd never met anyone with FSHD. Later in life, I would think about this discussion, particularly when I went to the funeral of Monica Ellis, who was the patron of this foundation. Monica died in her early 30s. Monica suffered from a very young age with FSHD, and she spent the last 10 years of her life laying on her stomach, not being able to speak very clearly or not being able to eat. This disease was now changing my life and playing with my mind. Denise and I talked for weeks and weeks about having children. Finally, we decided to start a family. This was one of the several difficult decisions relating to FSHD that I would be forced to make in the years to come. Over the next few years, we had 2 children. When they were born, I was concerned about many things. Was I strong enough to hold them? Could I lift them? Could I play with them? Every time I looked at our children, I thought about their future. What if they had the disease? How long can I work? Can I earn enough money to pay for their future care as well as mine? I watched them grow and watched them play sport and wondered what would happen. But I had a plan. I realised that the level of success I was going to achieve in my career by the age of 45, I now had to achieve by the age of 35. I had to fast track my future. I need to be successful, and I need to be successful now. I needed a new job. I needed to work harder, smarter, and be creative to secure my family's financial future. My life changed again the following year when I received a phone call from the director of Hill Samuel, Phil Cave. I went for several interviews. I met the chairman, the CEO. They didn't see me as a guy with a limp and a crooked smile. They saw me as a guy who had potential, and they wanted to give me a go. The rest is history. Hill Samuel became Macquarie Bank, and I built an empire controlling over $30 billion of real estate in 28 locations around the world, which employed more than 1,200 staff. I built businesses in funds management, leisure, real estate development, banking, mortgage securitization, and many, many more. I was a pioneer. If they said it couldn't be done, I wanted to do it.